There was a time when if you were a visitor to Madras or Chennai, the first place that people would take you to would be the Marina Beach. The beach was and is a wonder of this city. Surely this place must be having a history of its own. Let's explore that. The sea is a natural phenomenon. It has existed for years and years and years, and alongside we would expect that a beach also existed. You would be stunned if I were to tell you that before 1875 there was no Marina Beach. There was only a narrow strip of sand that extended to one side of the sea. How did this growth happen? That itself is a very fascinating story. The British came to Madras in 1639, they built Fort St. George and they began to live here thereafter. In the initial years, they hardly stirred out of the fort. Particularly, they did not go in the southern direction at all, because the Portuguese town of Santo Tomé was in the south and they did not get along well with the Portuguese. Much later, they built a road connecting Fort St. George to Santo Tomé. In the initial years, therefore, every evening they would set out from the fort in horse carriages and on horseback and come to where the war memorial today is. The war memorial, of course, was constructed only in the 1930s. Prior to that, there was a roundabout around which the British would exercise their horses and would take the air. Lots of romances would blossom over there, plenty of engagements would take place, and so the place was also known as Cupid's Bow. In the 19th century, when the British gradually became masters of this entire region, they began building the road that goes south. That was constructed in 1849 and it was called South Beach Road. Today we call it Kamarad Salai. Let's follow the direction that the British must have taken from Cupid's Bow to Santo Tomé. The first thing that you cross is what is called the Napiers Bridge, a very elegant arched bridge. It was originally an iron bridge when constructed in 1869. In order to prevent lightning from striking this metal bridge, the British also erected a lightning arrestor, which even now stands to one side of the Napiers Bridge. The present structure of the Napiers Bridge is from the early 1900s, when one side of it was completed. The other parallel bridge was constructed very recently in the early 21st century. And who was Napier? Napier was a governor of Madras in the 1860s. Having crossed Napier Bridge, we enter Marina Beach proper. On the right hand side, we have a number of historic buildings, each one of which merits a separate episode to tell its history. Today we will be looking at what we see on the left hand side. Immediately after Napier's Bridge, you have the memorials to Arinyar Anna, MGR, later political leaders as well, and after that you have the Marina swimming pool. That was constructed during the Second World War because the American soldiers who came here did not have a swimming pool for themselves. When you cross the swimming pool, you then get to see the beach proper. I mentioned to you that there was no beach prior to 1875. What was the miracle that took place that year? That was when the Madras harbour was constructed by the British. This is a city that does not have a natural harbour. It had to be artificially made, and it was a huge struggle, something that needs to be told in its time separately. Work began in 1875 and continued for almost 20 years. As the work progressed, as the harbour extended in the eastern direction, a peculiar natural phenomenon was detected. The sea began to recede to the south of the harbour, exposing a huge chunk of sand which we today recognize as the beach. And by 1881, the beach had more or less reached its present width. At that time, we had a governor of Madras, M.E. Grant Duff, Mount Stuart Elphinstone Grant Duff. He was not a man who did much, but we remember him chiefly for the fact that he constructed a promenade from the present war memorial right up to the present lighthouse. He believed that the citizens of Madras needed a place where they could walk and take the air in the evenings. The governor was a great admirer of everything Italian, and the Madras sea coast reminded him of Italy, and therefore when he was asked to give this promenade a name, he gave it the Marina. Ever since then, we call it the Marina Beach. During the freedom struggle, this was a place where many of our leaders, Mahatma Gandhi, Satyamurthy, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and others have come and spoken. Subramanya Bharati referred to this place as Tilakar Tidal, the place of Tilak, naming it after Bal Gangadhar Tilak, one of the earliest freedom fighters that we have had in the last 2 centuries. But we still recognize the place as the Marina. The British used the Marina as a place where they could cool off, and they left behind several accounts of it. But let us not forget, several centuries earlier, several centuries earlier, the Alvar saint Peyalvar left behind a description of this particular sea coast. He talks about the evening when the sun is setting and the sky is a combination of red and white. He then says that the sea is bringing in deposits of coral and pearl, and that is also red and white. And then when we visit the temple at Tiruvallikeni, the Lord is standing with Lakshmi on his chest, that maiden of the lotus who is here on a lily, and that again is a combination of red and white. It is in that color combination that Peyalvar describes this particular sea coast. After the samadhis and after the aquarium and the swimming pool, you will find a number of statues. Of these, the earliest are the ones of Mahatma Gandhi and what we call the Triumph of Labour statue. Both of them were sculpted by Devi Prasad Roy Chowdhury in the 1950s. He was the principal of the Government College of Arts and Crafts. When the Mahatma Gandhi statue was unveiled over here, it was so majestic that a demand was made for identical statues to be put up in Bombay and Calcutta, and Devi Prasad Roy Chowdhury sculpted them as well, and they stand there even today. The Labour statue was inspired by the landing of American troops at Iwo Jima in the Second World War. There was a photograph of soldiers raising the American flag, and Roy Chowdhury felt that the identical pose could be used for depicting labourers moving a heavy boulder, and that is exactly what he has done. We have a number of other statues over here. All of these date to 1968, when the then Chief Minister Annadurai, under his auspices, the second International World Tamil Conference was held. All the statues here have a Tamil theme. So you have got statues to the great Tamil composers like Avvayar, Kambar, Ilango Adigal, and then we have got Kannagi, the heroine of the Silapadikaram. We have got a statue to Subramanya Bharati and to Bharati Dasan. We also have statues to international scholars of Tamil, G.U. Pope, Father Beschi, who is known as Veeramamunivar, and Caldwell, Bishop Caldwell. And then we have 2 statues erected in the 1970s to our leaders, Kamaraj and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. With that, we come to the lighthouse, which is the 4th lighthouse of the city. Where are the earlier lighthouses? Well, that is an episode that we need to see later. The beach by itself was a very popular place for people to go to, still remains that way, but in the 50s, 60s and 70s, it was also a place where a number of film shoots were conducted. Some of the great Tamil hits, the songs, even today you can see them on YouTube. Gemini Ganesan, Manidhan Yenbavan, Devamagalam, that song, and then from Kadhalika Neramillai, the evergreen Kadhalika Neramillai, Yenna Parvai, Undan Parvai, and then we have got this Annai, where there is a car journey with Azhagiya Midile Nagarinile, Yarukku Janaki Kaathirundal. You've got lots of songs like this. Even today, walking on the beach is one of the most magical experiences. Buying Tenga Manga Patani Shundal and then walking up to the sea, taking off your shoes, wetting your feet, enjoying the fresh air and the breeze, and then coming back. It's such a blessing that this city has this wonderful beach. Thank you very much, and I hope to be back soon with several more stories. Bye for now.